You know, one of the positives of having worn so many hats for y'all is that when I wear a hat that I actually do enjoy and seriously consider wearing outside, nobody can really call me a douchebag. Or when they do call me a douchebag, it stings a whole lot less. Speaking of stings, and not so much douchebags. I don't know, isn't that a thing? A douchebag? Is that what you wear when your thing doesn't work correctly? I don't know. Speaking of stings of consciousness, George Bridges on May 14th, 2018 at 5 p.m. PTD, Pacific Daylight Time, sent out a letter to the all staff and faculty email list called Learner Leadership at Evergreen. Let's read this. In my remarks to you in February, speaking of the President's State of the College address, which I did a truncated version of, I outlined the challenges we face in enrollment next year. This enrollment is actually quite a bit dire than he admitted to in February. Since that time, I've been focused on adjusting the 18-19 curriculum and reducing our expenses. This challenge requires a bold response. We have chosen to focus our response on 3 critical strategies: stabilizing our finances, advancing our promotion of Evergreen's many strengths, and making critical changes in our programs and services aimed at serving students better. Now, the cool thing about what he's doing is that he is changing or eradicating all of the strengths of Evergreen in order to make critical changes aimed at serving students better. That might not be ironic, but it's patently obvious that that is what he's doing. The first of these, stabilizing our budget, entails eliminating some categories of activity and positions while also consolidating work and activity across divisions. These actions will yield a leaner budget, appropriately sized to reflect the number of students we anticipate serving in the coming year. So, chopping off the fat, which, in some instances is actually the lean. They're losing the lean. Some bone, too, I'm sure. The new structure consolidates functions and eliminates 2 executive leadership positions, thereby reducing the total salary pool at the executive level. I am personally dedicated to both objectives and therefore am committing to a reduction in my salary in FY19. When combined with executive leadership's commitment to take leave without pay, the reconfiguration will reduce salaries and benefits paid to the senior leadership team by more than $328,000 and better align our senior team's focus on our goals. Ouch. Now, the latest news is that the budget for next year is taking a $5.9 million hit, based on the hit in enrollment. As part of this reorganization, John Hurley will be leaving the college effective October 1, 2018. His 13 years of service to Evergreen are worthy of celebration. Please join me in thanking John for his dedication to the college and wish him on his next phase. Prior to leaving, John has generously agreed to work with our staff and HR to re-envision the college's work in human resources and how Evergreen can better support our employees. Now, why is John Hurley leaving? That is a big question. And remember, a lot of people have left in the last year, or been leaving over the course of the past year. John Hurley, I guess, is the latest one that is being announced as leaving. With this in mind, the new leadership structure eliminates the chief of staff position in my office and appoints John Carmichael as vice president for finance and operations. So John Hurley was a financial officer. And I know that last year, prior to the protests, somebody pretty high up in the financial division quit because they couldn't stand how George was treating the finances. Now, I haven't been able to get the records for this because Evergreen College every month is telling me I need to wait another month to get the records that I've asked them for as early as last July. And they've been stringing me out and stringing me out and stringing me out. I just got another email and I had to ask for this one. Usually I would get them unprompted, but the latest email is that you're going to have to wait for another month to get these records. Now, some things happened in the Public Records Department that were unplanned, but I have proof that they have actually been delaying certain key pieces of information that I've asked for that are actually pretty damning to this institution as a whole. But I won't really get into that until I have those documents. So, more news is coming from Evergreen. Eventually. And the division will create a new, more centralized budgeting system for the college. John Carmichael's experience in all aspects of Evergreen's administration and his deep understanding of college budgeting and finance will prove immensely helpful to our work in managing the college's finances and campus facilities. While Vice President for Advancement Amanda Walker will maintain oversight of advancement, she has agreed to assume additional responsibilities supporting the strategic and planning functions in the president's office. So here's probably a pay cut and more work for Amanda Walker. My heart goes out to thee. The new structure accomplishes 3 additional goals related to student success, whatever that means, that anticipate the second and third phases of the revitalization plan. Oh, God. Revitalization, in the sense that one of those machines that keeps you alive when you're in a coma is a revitalization machine, right? First, we will connect our academic advising and support programs directly to academic leadership, consolidating academic and career advising and first-year programs under the provost. Wendy Indris will lead this work, focusing solely on improving student academic success. Now, Wendy Indris, before this moment, was the Vice President of Student Affairs, which is everything about student life, student groups, the dorms, and everything extracurricular or subsidiary to academics. And that's apparently being consolidated under the provost. Wendy will have a new title, Vice Provost for Student Academic Success, and join Jennifer Drake's leadership team in academics. Wendy's new role will include oversight of academic and career advising, TRIO, new student programs, internships, international programs, and our new retention initiatives. Please don't leave. Please don't go. The position of Vice President for Student Affairs is being eliminated. Second, the new structure builds a much stronger connection between our staff and work devoted to student development with our efforts to advance equity and inclusion. Now, the one thing that is maintained constant throughout the whole the whole tenure of George Bridges is this equity and inclusion things, always brought front and center. Like after the kerfuffle in Charlottesville, George Bridges said, oh no, look at this. We are all about equity. We're all about inclusion. We're all about student outcomes, equity of outcomes, right? And then as the college is falling apart around him, he keeps on lifting up. Look at, we're doing so much for equity and inclusion. Well, who wants to even go there? Even if you're going to be completely catered by this institution, what are they actually going to give you as far as marketable skills? What, you're going to know how to protest, you're going to know how to complain, you're going to know how to feel bad when you make a microaggression, or you're going to know how to feel bad when you receive a microaggression? Sure, that stuff's going to be really great for your future. Or is it? To continue, Vice President / Vice Provost for Equity and Inclusion, Chastity Holman Douglas, will lead the new Equity, Inclusion, and Student Development Division, which will include recreation, athletics, student activities, health and wellness, and student conduct, in addition to the Equity and Inclusion Office. Jamie Cooper's former position as Associate Vice President of Student and Academic Support Services will be reconfigured as the new Dean of Students, reporting to Chastity and coordinating student development and residence life programs and activities. So everything having to do with student life is under the umbrella of this equity and inclusion thing, which is a very racialized way of going about dictating how people should act with one another, right? So the whole Evergreen experience is now specifically targeted and controlled by the agenda of equity and inclusion. And furthermore, Chastity Douglas is on the same level as the Vice Provost, right? Not the Provost, but the Vice Provost of Academics. So academics itself is on equal footing, and probably even less than equal footing, to the whole equity and inclusion agenda. Is this something that is going to make students want to go to this college? Because if you don't want to be a part of that, if you don't want to be trained in that, if you don't want to be served by that, you have to go to another college. Because everything about Evergreen is now submitted to that agenda. This expansion of responsibility does not diminish Chastity's commitment to or involvement in advancing campus-wide work on equity and inclusion. No, it actually broadens that. It will fold our work on supporting the personal development of all students into her portfolio. Equity and inclusion will become priorities for every student's personal growth. We are fortunate that Chastity's academic background includes extensive experience and work in student development. Third, the plan significantly strengthens our outreach to and communication with prospective students by consolidating our enrollment services group and government relations with college relations administered by Vice President for College Relations, Sandy Kaiser. This consolidation will help integrate our work in promoting Evergreen's new story and messages with every aspect of our recruitment of new students and our continuing work with the legislator. Hold on, the lawnmower is going and I have to move a chair. You know, only 3 people see my lawn. I shouldn't talk about my landlord on the internet. This new structure and the changes it requires will surface many questions. No doubt, George. The details require careful consideration and resolution. Well, resolution to ignore every bit of data that tells you not to go down this path. Working with the teams affected over the summer. Poor teams. See, who takes the brunt of all this, right? The students act up, the staff gets in trouble. The administration acts foolhardy, the staff take the brunt. The staff lose their jobs. The staff get all the harassment. George Bridges can go to therapy and feel anxious and claim to have adult onset ADHD, which is a quote directly from him. I don't think that exists. But he can live in his world and go down this path, but everybody else suffers because of him. In week 8, commencing 5/21, which I think is tomorrow, the Vice President and I will hold informational sessions to describe in greater detail this new approach to the college's divisional organization and structure of senior leadership, along with the final reductions we are taking to balance the budget. These plans, coupled with the significant work we have underway, chart a path to a bright future for Evergreen. I'm trying to think of a joke. It'll be bright. Oh, Icarus! He was pretty bright. The senior leadership team and I look forward to our work together with you to foster student achievements through the implementation of the plans and realignment of our resources. Thank you for your continued efforts and dedication to our students and Evergreen's mission. I thought the lawn was done, but now there's a weed whacker coming. I'm going to try to go through this and you guys can experience what it's like to experience this. Now, in response to this, I want to take a few points from somebody who I'm not going to identify. So I'm just taking the points pell-mell or wholeheartedly from this other person. In 2012, and for a long time before that, there were 4 divisions of the college: academic affairs, student affairs, finance and administration, and advancement. And then by early 2018, there were 7 college divisions. So George Bridges went from 4 college divisions to 7 college divisions in a time of extreme financial stress. He extended his organization. Do you guys hear that? I might have to redo this whole thing. So the primary offering of Evergreen is not academics. This college is not a college in the traditional sense of a place to go and learn and get skills. It is a college in the sense of a place to go and be safe and get spoon-fed all these ideas that you don't really learn how to critically dismantle without getting your head chewed off by the students. Furthermore, you know what? Screw it. There might be something poetic about the whole lawn care while I'm talking about this stuff. The shearing of Evergreen. Let's call it that. So in summary, this person, one of my sources, writes, 3 of the 4 previous divisions of the college have disappeared or been substantiatively disempowered. 3 new divisions are created, their resources and roles not being touched, or in the case of diversity and inclusion, being augmented, despite the laughable claim that restructuring of administration is a response to the fiscal crisis. And it's not. Now, this is where it gets good, right? That's a bunch of academic gobbledygook. Now, what is all this diversity and equity stuff for? Who is this for? It's for students, right? Which students is it for? Well, it's the same students who have put on their own day of absence this year. Now, I got wind of this and I posted it on my Twitter, and then some right-leaning or alt-right publications got a hold of this little tweet or this little schedule of day of absence that the students are putting on, and then on May 16th, 17th, and 18th, the college has received tons of harassment from lowlifes who go around harassing people for no good reason other than it makes them feel good, because harassing people doesn't actually get this stuff to stop. It actually entrenches people further in this way of thinking. Once you victimize somebody who has already victimized themselves, you are reinforcing the victimization. So don't do that. Please, please, kindly don't do that. Anyway, so the students have put on their very own day of absence. The college didn't want this to happen, but the students did it anyways. And let me see, let me show you this. According to their website that has timed out now, the mission of this event is to bring POC together in order to create a reclamation of space and move forward into the future. In reaction to institutions' consistent disregard for our safety, we are operating independently of the college. This is a day for us, by us. So the students who all this equity and inclusion stuff is meant for don't care about it at all. Still hate the institution. Hate the institution probably just as much as the alt-right people who hate the institution. So all this stuff is for nothing. And I don't have the exact numbers of the incoming freshman class, but I can tell you this much, guys. The Mizzou effect needs to be rebranded the Evergreen effect. So again, don't harass people. I mean, don't even harass George Bridges. He just needs to get out of there. But he will prove, I guess, hopefully, this whole experience, this whole experiment, let's call it, will prove that this is what happens when you go down this path. Hopefully all the work that I put into this since June of last year will hopefully persuade administrators and legislators and senators and people who work in colleges and people who support colleges not to go down this path, because it's ruination. Now, to finish up, this is another distraction. I'm working hard. I'm scripting up the 1 year anniversary commemoration of the Evergreen Spring. And it's going to be very informational. It's just going to be like this blip vert of all of the data that I have. So we'll see how it turns out. But that's what I'm going to be doing this week. I also have a couple of interviews set up this week, maybe even a third one. So you can expect a lot of content on this channel. I never say this because I think it's kind of puerile to say this, but if you like what I do, subscribe and hit that bell and maybe think about donating, but you don't have to. But when you guys do, it really helps me a whole lot. I can't stress that enough. And thank you for those who do that. So have a good evening. Have a good summer. Sunday. Have a good Sunday. I hope that this is feeling the nicest part of summer for you already in your station on the planet, of the world, of Earth.